since Donald Trump was elected a president, the left has been doing whatever they can to remove him from office. The spiteful liberals cannot accept the fact that Trump is, in fact, the president and beat Hillary Clinton, so instead they will continue to fan the flame of division. The first tactic the left focused on was the bogus Russian collusion story, and that time passed the entire narrative began to blow up in their face. Every time the left thought they had a piece of so-called evidence to tie Trump to the Russians, it turned out to be a Clinton operative which has only frustrated the Democrat to no end. Now, the hateful individuals are focusing on a new tactic to remove President Trump from office, and if we are not careful, they may get their wish. Over the past few weeks, we have witnessed un flux of fuel assault allegations coming out against politicians on either side of the aisle. Roy Moore, the Republican candidate for Alabama Senate, was hit with assault allegations stemming from 40 years ago. Even though the claims were hardly corroborated and the chief accused conceded that she did the damage was already done, and Moore lost to the ultra-liberal Doug Jones last night. Soon
after Moore was accused of impropriety, the
social media recounting their stories of fuel assault at the hands of high-powered politicians. Then, allegations against Democrat Senator Al Franken and Congressman John Conyers emerged, and the two resigned from office. Now, you may be asking yourself how does this tie into pressuring President Trump to step down from office? Well, the answer is quite simple. If the left can get enough women to come forward accusing President Trump of fuel assault, they can do their best to force him to resign from office. And that is the entire purpose of the sudden influx of fuel assault allegations against politicians rearing its head at this time. Here is more from Great American Politics. Due to the decaying culture and value of America and Donald Trump's agenda to restore many of those values, Donald Trump is hated and despised by a large sector of the population. They have been trying to find ways to prevent Trump from taking office and then ways to get him out of office. Now that he has been inaugurated, Democrats had put their hopes in the Russian election interference investigation, but so far, that seems to be backfiring on them as there has been more evidence linking the Clinton campaign with the Russians than the Trump campaign. One House Democrats believed they could lead an effort to impeach President Trump and remove him from office, but that effort was soundly defeated with the majority of Democrats voting to table the resolution. So, how can they possibly get rid of Trump? Me Too. Several women tried to prevent Trump from winning the election by making all allegations against him. But Trump denied the allegation and believed they were handled since no hard evidence was ever presented. Now that the Me Too crisis causing several members of Congress to resign suddenly, over a dozen women have banded together to make all allegations against Trump, and immediately, some Democrats in Congress began calling for Trump to resign. Trump has responded by saying that the allegations are not true, they're fake news, and they deny all of the allegations. So, will Congress believe Trump or his accuser? If Trump is guilty, then Democrats need to be reminded how they vehemently defended Bill Clinton and refused to vote him out of office during his impeachment hearing. I'm not condoning the behavior. But right now, Trump is the best thing that could happen to America, and we need him in the Oval Office. Now, no one is saying that politicians that are found guilty of fuel assault should remain in office, but just an allegation should not ruin a man's career. There is a reason that there are a statute of limitation, and if these women were genuinely assaulted by a politician or a person in power, there is no reason that there should not be a paper trail to corroborate their story of abuse. After years of silence, the women should not be given a platform to destroy someone based on what political office the men are for now, and that goes across the board. If these are the tactics that the left are going to use to silence their opposition, you can bet they will use them harder in 2018. And of course, in 2020 with the next presidential election. Make no mistake folk, this is a war we are in and is now the time to fight back against the tactics or we can say goodbye to the United States. #Great American Politics. Follow us on Facebook at Freedom Daily. We have no tolerance for comment containing violence, racism, vulgarity, profanity, all cap, or discourteous behavior. Thank you for partnering with us to maintain a courteous and useful public environment where we can engage in reasonable discourse. If there's one thing we learned about the presidential election last year, it's that liberals will do whatever it takes to win. We constantly heard incidents of voter fraud taking place where Hillary's minions were voting multiple times and bus of people were being transported into key swing counties in order to throw the vote. A liberals disgustingly throw Doug Jones win in our face this morning. Republican Roy Moore is refusing to concede. After evidence of voter fraud is now being revealed, sure to overshadow the win that liberals are calling a stinging snub to President Trump, being able to go back and recount digital votes is a very serious step to preserving the integrity of election, due to the massive voter fraud that took place by Hillary and her minions throughout the presidential election last year, but yet again, liberals are using their shady judges as a criminal arm of their shady enterprise, where in a shocking 11th-hour order, the Alabama Supreme Court ruled that counties in Alabama can destroy voting records in the Roy Moore-Doug Jones race, going against the long-standing rule that the counties preserve the record and the integrity of the race, essentially, any criminal evidence of liberals voting multiple times, or illegals or non-resident casting their vote for Jones, are now destroyed forever, thanks to the unbelievable ruling of an Alabama judge. TechCrunch report, following an 11th-hour order instructing voting officials in Alabama to keep the digital ballot generated in Tuesday's controversial Senate election, the state's Supreme Court has issued a stay to block that decision. The order to preserve the record was issued by the Montgomery County Circuit Court on Monday afternoon, less than 24 hours before voting was set to begin, and the stay that will effectively nullify that order was issued late Monday night. All counties employing digital ballot scanner in the December 12, 2017 election are be ordered to set their voting machine to save all processed image in order to preserve all digital ballot image. The Montgomery County order stated the order came just hours before the vote were counted in the Moore-Jones race. Democrat Doug Jones took a command lead in the Senate race Tuesday night. It became clear that Mobile County was going to be the last county to come in. Mobile County, a heavily pro-Jones area, tabulated its ballot far slower than the more-led red counties elsewhere in the state. But this is just the beginning of the disgusting evidence emerging that liberals stole the election. After other disturbing reports are surfacing about other key incidents that took place at the polls last night that's already raising eyebrows. 1. Fake narrative about voter suppression. It was widely predicted that black in Alabama would determine the outcome of the race. When the liberal media began to realize that it would be an incredibly tight race, where we saw Moore and Jones separated by less than 1% for several hours, liberals immediately began to push the false narratives that black were being blocked from the polling place. One of the trending stories was from fake liberal website Verify Politics was a viral story called "Something Incredibly Shady is Happening in Alabama Right Now", where they made the ridiculous claim that black were being prevented from voting. In the article, the website asserted that white supremacy was preventing black citizens from being able to take to the polls, that no doubt got the black populace fired up just in time to go cast their vote for Jones before the race ended. Here's a short excerpt of their ridiculous story, where they claimed that white supremacists were requiring poor black from being able to vote because they were required to show an ID. Alabama has a long history of suppressing the vote, dating back at least to 1900 when the state passed a new constitution whose main purpose was to deny African Americans the right to vote. They won in 2011 the Republican-controlled state legislature passed a law that all voters must have a photo ID, which immediately disenfranchised many rural and poor black. 2. Liberals. Army of felon liberals frequently use the backing of criminals to bolster their agenda, which is why they fight so hard to keep Muslim immigrants and Mexican illegals in our country. The Alabama Senate race was no different. A Breitbart exposed how George Soros and infamous race BT Al Sharpton at their grubby talent all over this race right from the beginning, where the duo registered an army of convicted felons across Alabama to help bolster support for Jones, an organization partnered with a George Soros-financed group and led by a radical leftist who is the half-brother of the infamous controversial Rev. Al Sharpton has been diligently working over the past few weeks to register convicted felons across Alabama. Breitbart began. They went on. The aim of the effort has been to get as many felons as possible on the roster before last Monday, the deadline to register in order to vote in Alabama's December 12 Senate special elections that pits Republican Roy Moore against Democratic challenger Doug Jones. The man spearheading the campaign has stated outright that his effort is meant to ensure a Democratic victory in Alabama. The thousands of felons reportedly newly registered over the past few weeks were most likely not included in any recent polling on the Alabama Senate race put out by major firm. Jones himself is tied to some of the specific organizations associated with the drive to register felons. Here, indeed, a Breitbart News first reported, Jones spearheaded a project for a massively Soros-financed legal activist group demanding full voting rights be given to felons released from prison, including those convicted of murder, rape and other violent crimes. 3. Dark money from very questionable source. Whenever you smell a chance George Soros is somewhere nearby lurking about. The infamous evil billionaire who turned his own neighbors into the Nazis in the années 1940 is constantly gunning for the destruction of America, where is a huge donor of crooked politicians like Hillary Clinton, Barack Obama, and Rhino Republicans like John McCain. So it should come as no surprise that Soros yet again was at the helm causing chaos and trying to throw the election in Alabama. Via Breitbart, Politico reported on Monday that the George Soros-funded Priorities USA Action and Sen. Chuck Schumer's DNY Senate Majority Packers the dark money behind the Alabama shell group that has spent more than $4.1 million to defeat conservative Republican Roy Moore in Tuesday's Alabama US Senate special election in which he faced liberal Democrat Doug Jones. 4. Liberals behind the character assassination of Roy Moore. For weeks there was an ongoing barrage of accusations made about Roy Moore, where he was even accused of pedophilia and going after several underage girls. One of Moore's accusers was Beverly Young Nelson, the ex-waitress who charged that Moore groped her when she was 7 and was in his 20s, and USD her high school yearbook bearing Moore's signature, proof that she knew him. Even though Nelson would be busted for plagiarizing the yearbook entry, liberals still used the woman's false testimony as a way to push the narrative that Moore was a sexual predator. There still has yet to be any evidence against Moore except the testimony of the women who conveniently crawled out of the woodwork to share their stories right before the race. It was even discovered that George Soros was behind the hit research of Moore and was encouraging the women to speak out against the Republican judge. It's pretty disturbing how liberals will not stop in their conquest to destroy this country with their shady and illegal antics, and yesterday was a enormous hit to the Republican Party. Jones' victory will have significant consequences for Republicans on the national level, where Democrats are now working towards capturing the last Senate seat up for grab next year in order to gain the majority in the Senate. Representative Trey Gowdy is one person in Washington DC that not many people would want to go head to head with, and for a good reason. Gowdy has built his career on being a strong litigator while serving in South Carolina as a prosecutor trying some of the state's hardest cases. Gowdy then put his skills to a better use when he decided to run for SC representative and has used his litigation expertise to root out corruption in Washington. So, on Wednesday, Trey Pitbull Gowdy interviewed Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein before the House Judiciary Committee concerning the conflict of interest and corruption within the Department of Justice and FBI. Instead of giving Rosenstein a pass after it was discovered that Robert Mueller's team was hardly unbiased, Gowdy ripped into Rosenstein in an epic 6-minute tirade that you have to see to believe. In the video, Trey Gowdy starts pointing out the very reason a special counsel was even appointed was to have an investigation that was not riddled with special interest. However, that has hardly been the case ever since Robert Mueller was tapped to head the switch into President Trump almost a year ago. In fact, the team that Mueller assembled to look into any criminal wrongdoing of the President of the United States is mired in corruption and bias to none other than Hillary Clinton. Trey Gowdy brings up the point that the demoted DOJ official Bruce Oher and his wife worked for Fusion GPS. Then Gowdy went on an impressive rant concerning Trump asking FBI agents to and read some of the text messages on his FBI lawyer mistress Lisa Page, 10 conflict of interest free, senior agent of the FBI can't think of a single solitary American who would vote for Donald Trump. Gowdy said, "These are the people who we were told we needed for a conflict of interest free investigation." Gowdy asked, @tegodisk, 10 conflict of interest free, senior agent of the FBI can't think of a single solitary American who would vote for real Donald Trump. pic.twitter.com/bslbtpg4 qui Fox News, Fox News, December 13, 2017. Of course, Rosenstein kept insisting that there was no witch hunt after President Trump, but those text messages imply something else entirely. Fox News reported on those nasty messages yesterday in a shocking report that showed just how deep the corruption in this so-called special counsel really goes. Text message between FBI officials Peter Strzok and Lisa Page in 2016 that were obtained by Fox News on Tuesday refer to then candidate Donald Trump a "loathsome human" and an idiot more than 10,000 tech between Stroke and page were being reviewed by the Justice Department after Stroke was removed from Special Counsel Robert Mueller's Russia probe after it was revealed that some of them contained anti-Trump content. The message were sent during the 2016 campaign and contained discussion about various candidates. On March 2, Stroke texted page that someone asked me who vote for Guest Ohio Gov. John Kazir, seriously, would you not vote Democrat? Page responded, I don't know. Stroke answered, I suppose Hillary Clinton, I would vote the Page affirmed. 2 days later, Page texted Stroke, God, Trump is an awesome human, yet a many sick win. Stroke responded, good for Hillary. Later the same day, Stroke texted Page, OMG, Trump is an idiot. Is a fool. Page answered, America will get what the voting public deserve, said Stroke, too. Which Page responded, that's what I'm afraid of. Later that same day, Stroke texted Page, OK, may vote for Trump. What? Answered Page, pour Kazir, is the only sensible man up there. I was pretty much calling for death for NSA leaker, Edward Snowden. Stroke SAID. I'm a single issue voté, clin d'œil espionnage machine party. Stroke later told Page, exactly. Sick, Rekazir. NDHS 0 pile, 12 days later, after Trump took a command and lead in the Republican delegate race with victory in key Super Tuesday primary. Page texted Stroke, I cannot believe Donald Trump is likely to be an actual, serious candidate for president. 4 months later, Stroke and Page exchanged message mocking Trump and his family at the Republican National Convention. Ternation, the do *CHEBAGS are about to come out. Stroke texted Page on July 19. You can tell by the excitable clapping. Later, Stroke reached out to Page again, saying, OMG. You listening to NPR? Apparently Melania's speeched passage lifted from Michelle Obama's unbelievable no whale. Page answered, adding, God, it's just a two-bit organization. It also hopes this organization comes to bit. I mardi November, on AUG 6. Page texted Stroke a New York Times article about Muslim lawyer Kizir Khan, who became embroiled in a war of words with Trump. After Khan spoke at the Democratic National Convention, Jesus, you should read this, and Trump should go F himself. Page wrote in a message attached to the article. God, that's a great article. Stroke answered, thanks for sharing, and if Trump now they are the people that are supposed to be looking into corruption, but seem to be pulling for the other guy, how is that supposed to work? The whole reason why Jeff Sessions recused himself from looking into this ridiculous Russian collusion charade was so that there was not an appearance of bias, yet here we are with all sort of prejudice and special interest. This entire investigation needs to be shut down and let go since it is evident that there is no proof of wrongdoing by Trump, but there is plenty of evidence of impropriety by Mueller and his team. Thank God there are people like Trey Gowdy still in office willing to push for the truth and fight for the American people. #, Fox News. Follow us on Facebook at Freedom Daily, and the NFL nightmare continue. This time another entitled NFL Boltosin ingrate, Seattle Seahawks rookie and defensive lineman Malik McDowell took it upon himself to get into a bit of hot water with the law, but unfortunately for McDowell, his rude interaction with a female law enforcement officer who was attempting to arrest him for disorderly conduct was all caught on camera and made public for the whole world to see who the so-called justice warriors in the NFL are really about. As seen in the above video, a male police officer appears to be trying to transport McDowell to the police station for booking. The male police officer isn't the same officer who originally arrested him though. Because we see in the video while McDowell is being arrested is also taunting a female peace officer who is standing nearby. The video features a male officer who appears to be tasked with transporting McDowell, but not the one who originally arrested him, putting handcuffs on McDowell. At the same time, McDowell is taunting a female cop standing nearby. Are you scared of me? He asks her repeatedly. Why is you a cop then? McDowell and the officer go back and forth about why he was arrested for disorderly conduct, and they call her a bitch multiple times. Bitch, he got money. That's why he can talk shit, McDowell says, adding that the officers will never make as much money as he's made in the past few months. McDowell then apparently shouts at some passersby, hey, they're trying to plant some shit on me, which caused the officers to laugh. He got a lot of fucking money, you broke ass nigga, McDowell says as they search him. Put me in fucking jail, please, so he can bon out. Yup, this is what social justice warrior millionaires do. They follow the lead of a failing quarterback who was told by his Islamic girlfriend to kneel during the national anthem to call attention to himself so he wouldn't be fired by the San Francisco 49ers, and in turn, they take down the whole NFL with them. And sadly, since most of these able tossers have no idea how money works, they are too damn stupid to figure out the fact that if people don't go to the games, watch them on TV, and buy team gear, they don't get paid. They are arming their own pocketbooks, but they don't even possess the IQ to understand this fact. The Big Lead Report, 12 reasons why everyone at Colin Kaepernick just got paid. The haters came out in drove. Why do people as the successful quarterback? Here's why. 1. Is not Russell Wilson. Despite Wilson's off-season divorce, the Seattle Seahawks QB is so much more clean-cut than his rival Kaepernick, and not embroiled in scandal, and disarrangement ain't covered in tattoo, and the most of all, his Instagram screams humble choir boy, while Kaepernick is posing with rappers. 2. Tattoo? Kaepernick. HAS Maniscari, colorful tattoo. This freaks out 82% of NFL writers over the age of 50 who prefer their QBs to have pasty, d'IRMS de voix of ink. And the tattoo under Kaepernick's jersey? If you see him at the pool, you better walk to the shallow end. Mark Cuban. 3. Occasionally, Kaepernick wears his hat backwards. Why would a 26-year-old wear his hat backwards? That's so unprofessional. Black, wearing a hat backwards, and having visible tattoos is 3 strike, and Mr. Kaepernick, you're out. When Stafford's Roethlisberger, Rodgers, Como and Brady wear their hat backwards, it's ironic, obviously. 4. Kaepernick is most dangerous when he scrambled. He shredded the Packers for 181 yards on the ground in a 2013 playoff game, carved up the Seahawks for 130 in a playoff game last season, and is dominant in the read option. NFL purist edge running QBs except for Steve Young. 5. Kaepernick wears socks that are called Make It Rain. Dude, do you really want your socks to give off a strip club vibe? Is that something Joe Flacco would wear? 6. The 49 ERSQB qui sees his biceps sometime after scoring the ego on this kid, usually Andrew Luck and the ball to the referee. Colin Kaepernick again. Jacksonville B7. So what if Kaepernick has reached 2 straight NFC championship games? 0 Super Bowl ring and it's all about the ring. SSSSS. 8. Not clutch. In 2014, 3-4 carte turnovers versus Seattle in the NFC Championship game, including an interception in the end zone in the final minute. In 2013, couldn't complete a 4 thermostat down pass inside the 10-yard line in the final minute of the Super Bowl, spare me the regular season wins. or the playoff road win over the Packers in 2014. Are we certain Kaepernick is ready for the blinding light of crunch time? 9. Colin Kaepernick has a big nose, which led one act to call him Chenose. He didn't look, but I'm sur the Digital Underground jokes were flying on Twitter minute after Kaepernick's record-setting contract extension. 10. Kaepernick at the gala to wear a Dolphins at a party. Big mistake, huge mistake. Would Joe Montana have ever worn a Houston Oilers hat? No way. 11. Mocked Cam Newton's Superman celebration in a playoff game in Carolina. What a dick. Colin Kaepernick touchdown with a Superman. Cam Newton mocked 12. Kaepernick chills 4 beats sur the Yankees like beats and the I'm the man commercial and Apple just bought them, making Dr. Dre a billionaire, but NFL fan prefers their QBs to sell more vanilla product, like Wranglers, UGGs or Buicks, and all the reasons were before I started kneeling during the national anthem. Never in the history of the NFL has the attendance and game viewership been so low. All because of a man who decided that instead of using his strength of running the ball he wanted to throw it because it requires less work and effort on his behalf. Congratulations, social justice warriors, please share if you are boycotting the NFL.